There's a lot of eyes on Skylanders right now, with the Skylanders U2's release happening just last week, and with that naturally comes a lot of talk about the potential for a new game or a remaster. I'm going to make an entirely different video talking about that in the near future, but for now I wanted to focus on a major point of discussion about a Skylanders revival, that being the Toys to Life gimmick. There is very mixed opinions on whether or not Toys to Life would return to the franchise, or if they'd just drop it completely, going down a different route. Many people credit some very reasonable flaws with the Toys to Life system, but there are also many strong arguments for Toys to Life as well, so we're going to cover both today. I'd like to give some credit to Torchy, as I saw their video discussing Toys to Life this morning, and they had a very unique concept. It's definitely worth a watch if you're interested, but without further ado, let's get straight into the arguments for and against Toys to Life. The most common argument I see is that people just wouldn't be interested in it anymore. People say things like, Toys to Life has run its course, it's a dead concept, it was cool because it was unique and now it's not. It became oversaturated, there was too much in the market. People don't want to collect figures anymore, they'd rather just buy them virtually. And these are all arguments that I've heard that I'd say would fall under the bracket of people just not being interested anymore, but I think that this is far from the truth, like really far. I mean, the idea that Toys to Life was a fancy gimmick of the 2010s that was cool, but nobody cares about anymore, to some extent is correct. There isn't much of it around, but I feel that's not so much due to consumers not being interested in the concept, but more because rather than Amiibo, there isn't any to buy. All the Toys to Life games tied the knot around the same time, and subsequently they all left stores at the same time, and we went from having too many to none. Which brings me on to my next point. Was Toys to Life oversaturated? Absolutely it was. And that was definitely a major contributing factor that led to not only Skylanders, but the Toys to Life genre as a whole falling down a pit and dying. A lot of people agree to that being the biggest downfall of the genre. But look at the market now. There is a massive gap where this consumerism giant once stood, and I refuse to believe a company that likes money as much as Activision would pass up the opportunity to reclaim its throne in major stores across the entire world. And as for the idea that people just wouldn't be interested in collecting figures anymore, this is quite easily debunkable with one word, that being Labubu. I can't believe I just mentioned those, but it is true. Look at how many millions of people went crazy over Labubus, and you mean to tell me that people just don't care about collecting pointless consumeristic items anymore? And that's not just like a one-off example either. I mean, in recent memory, I can think of Jellycat, Squishmallows. I mean, even things like Funko Pops and trading cards and Lego, if you're being a bit more broad, are all examples of massive.
And do you know what else is massive?
Brands and items that millions of people buy just for the sake of it. So why would Skylanders be any different? I also regularly hear people making the argument that the game would simply be better without it in the modern day, saying having an unlocking system or microtransactions would be more up to date with modern competitors. This is a terrible argument in my opinion. When you mention Skylanders to someone, the first thing they think of is almost always going to be the figures. That's what it's known for, that's the Skylanders brand. No one thinks of the Rage Mage boss fight. Skylanders would probably need the Toys to Life to stand out. It's what made it unique. Also, giving Activision free reign of microtransactions in a game like Skylanders would probably make you have to pay £9.99 for each level, or else you're stuck with a free multiplayer battle royale mode that comes with the £80 game. I've also seen people recommending unlocking characters through soul gems, which is definitely better than the microtransactions ideas, but still definitely doesn't carry the excitement of going out to a store, finding a cool character, buying them, bringing them home, unboxing them and putting them on the portal for the first time. Another argument I hear often is that they can't afford it. People often say it'd be too expensive to produce all the figures and get them back out on the shelves, or that it'd be too expensive to write all the existing characters into a new game engine. This is probably the most logical reason for not bringing back Toys to Life, as it would somewhat have to be a gamble, but let's break it down a bit more than that. Let's start with porting the existing characters to a new engine. This would probably cost a bit of money, but they would likely spend that on developing a tool that helps them port all the older characters forwards, rather than doing every single one manually. I think it would be a lot easier to do than people think, and definitely well within Activision's budget for a franchise that made them several $billion. As for the physical figures, this would probably be a bit more costly, and so they would definitely have to be careful about how they approach it. But with some research and a couple of educated guesses, I'm sure they could find a good balance between releasing not enough for the demand or releasing too many. It would be likely that for a risky reboot they would aim for slightly under the anticipated amount, in case it doesn't sell well, but even if they don't have enough, if they saw the demand increasing in the weeks before or even after the release of the game, there is nothing stopping them from making more and sending more out onto the shelves. People also seem to often forget that they already made an even riskier gamble than this within the same franchise. They released Spyro's Adventure. They put out loads of figures into a completely unknown market and it came out well, so I think this is probably the most logical argument, but still definitely one that they have the capabilities of overcoming. The final reason why is that there are too many already. This is a concern I see people having more often than I should. You don't need to collect them all. From as early as Spyro's Adventure, there's already characters that you could have no reason to go for other than you wanted them. You have never needed every single character to get through the games. Excluding adventure packs, in SSA you only needed 8 figures to do literally everything, 3 of which came with the game. That left 24 you could just completely ignore and never needed to buy. I can understand why people see needing to collect more as a bad thing. It's already tough to complete the collection. But ultimately you do not need a full collection, it's just a nice thing to have. And it's supposed to be something that's expensive and takes a lot of time and is an achievement if you get it. For the average player, they'd have a much more limited selection of Skylanders, and this has always been the case, so adding more figures would not create any issues for the vast majority of people, just a select few collectors who wouldn't want their remaining figures number to go up. That's all I've got for you this week. As I mentioned earlier, I have much more Skylanders content planned for down the line, so if you're interested, a subscription to the channel would be much appreciated. And if you're feeling extra generous and would like to support me further, you can become a member. Join my Discord to be notified as soon as I post, or just to come and say hi. Until next time, goodbye.